Well, good morning, everybody. How you guys doing? All right, well, very nice to be here. As was just said, my name is Bryan Reece. I'm president of Norco College. And, you know, one of our biggest missions, maybe our only mission, I keep saying to the faculty and staff at the college, is to really focus on the lives and the businesses in the I-15 corridor. So we represent folks along the I-15 corridor. If you go as far north as possible, all the way up to the 60 freeway, and then we go all the way down south to the Lake Elsinore border and all the homes on both sides of that. So we're really interested in helping lift that whole region socially, economically, culturally, just help inspire growth and development in that region. And one of the areas that we're really focused on, as I mentioned, is economic development. Now, a lot of people may not think of a college or a university as an economic development tool, but I do, and I think a lot of the faculty at the college do. There's a number of ways that we can have an impact on economic development. I'm going to get to photonics in just a second here. But one way is to just increase the number of students that go to college. So all you guys here from La Sierra, we need to make sure you go to Norco, okay? So we've got to increase the college-going rate in our region. College-going rate in the Inland Empire is lower than San Diego County, lower than Orange County, lower than Los Angeles County. We need to get those rates up. And I feel like that's a major responsibility of Norco College in this region, and we need to partner with our high schools to make sure we do that. We need to get students into careers, technical careers, where they're going through the college and right into jobs, or transferring on to the university through Norco College. This is really something that's fundamental. There's a direct correlation between the level of education in a region and the prosperity in a region. If we can move one, the other one follows. Another thing we're really focusing on is when students come into the college, they need to have a successful experience. Not all of our students are having the success that we want to see. They're not all completing their goals. Not all of them are completing their AA degrees. Not all of them are successfully transferring, and we really need to work on that. One of the reasons this is difficult for our particular students is not all of our students, but a lot of our students come from first-generation families. They don't have assets at home that can help them understand how to be successful in college. This is something that we work on a lot. A third thing we really need to do is get more of our workforce in the mindset of continually upgrading their skills. So people that are working now in that corridor, we want to provide a solution for them at the college so that they can continue to upgrade their skills, continue to become more and more effective at work, continue to improve their careers. And another area is just helping partner with organizations in the region to stimulate economic development, which is what I want to really focus on. There's a couple of areas or ways that we can do this. We talk about this a lot as business leaders in the area. We can help create new businesses in the region. We can help support existing businesses in the region, and we can recruit new businesses to the region. All three of these are really good solutions to improving economic development in the area. And one of the ways that we can do that is to creatively think about industries that we can develop in this region that will inspire that kind of growth. And one of those industries is photonics. Now, what I really like about this idea of photonics, well, first of all, if you don't know what photonics is, it's basically the study of light. Just think of lasers. Think of laser beams. When I say photonics, think of a laser beam. Okay, that's basically what we're talking about. Now, we've been going through an age of the electron for a good 100 years. And in the age of the electron, what we do is we use the smallest unit in an electric circle or an electric current to send information or to do work for us. We've used all kinds of electrical solutions to do work for us throughout the economy. We're now starting to transition into an area where we are using the photon instead of the electron to do all kinds of work for us. And we're just on the cusp of that transition. The area in the United States that's able to capture that idea and turn it into an industry will be an area that flourishes, because photonics is a national, or it's an international industry. And what we need to figure out how to do in this region is to capture that industry here. Any region that's able to capture an industry and dominate a particular industry that has national, international significance is able to increase wealth. You're all familiar with common examples of this. So Hollywood is a good example, right? Hollywood, they're in the entertainment industry. They make movies, they make television programs. They do that all in the Los Angeles area mostly, and then they sell those products all over the world, and it creates a tremendous amount of wealth in that area. You're all familiar with Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, they dominated the world of the computer. This is where they originally established their foothold. This is why Silicon drives all those chips, which is how they got their nickname. They built all those computers and all those chips there and sold them all over the world. And then as the internet came in, they got their second boom in that area, and they started creating applications and solutions that you deliver to the internet. The point is, they generate all this stuff in one region, and they distribute it internationally. New York City delivers financial services all over the world. One place where these financial services are delivered all over the world. So this is a common model, right? This is the way we can really generate wealth in this area. Photonics, I think, is an area that is ripe for us to consider, and there's a number of really unique competitive advantages for us right here in the Inland Empire, and for us on the western side of Riverside County in particular. To give you a sense of what I'm talking about, let me first tell you a quick story. So about a year ago, I was invited to a meeting with the Corona Chamber of Commerce. So yeah, thank you. So they had this guy they wanted to have come talk about photonics. His name is Dr. Bay, Dr. Y.K. Bay, and I remember I had heard about him for a while. He's a physicist that lives in Corona. He has a business in Orange County, and he does a lot of photonics work for the military and for NASA, things like that. He's out of Berkeley. He did work at the Lawrence Livermore Lab, and it's very interesting. If you ever meet him, he's a really interesting guy. So anyway, I'd heard about this guy, and he had a couple of meetings, and he's been going all over the southwest United States looking to build a photonics center. And he'd been to Nevada, and been to New Mexico, been to Arizona, and been to various parts of Southern California, and he's talking to folks in Corona. So I was sitting there at the board of directors meeting for Corona Chamber, and someone said Dr. Y.K. Bay is going to be talking. And Yolanda leaned over and she said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I want to go to this meeting." So they got me in the meeting, and we show up at the meeting, and a number of us are there to hear the presentation from Y.K. Bay. And so he starts talking about photonics, and I'm a political scientist. I didn't know anything about this, so I'm just listening to what he has to say, and he wants to build this photonics center. And this is the pitch he's been taking all over southwest United States. And he says he wants to build this photonics center, and he'd like to build it on a college or a university campus. So I'm thinking, okay, I have one of those. And he says he'd like to build it he has to build it in a dry or an arid area. The only place you can do research on laser beams is in a dry area. So you can't do it in San Diego. You can't do it in Orange County. You can't do it in Los Angeles. And whenever it comes to economic development in Southern California, very often those three markets win out. This is one of the reasons why development happens there, not in the Inland Empire. They've got a lot of competitive advantages that move stuff their direction. Well, this particular thing moves it in our direction. So arid and a college, university campus. He said it needs to be on a college or university campus with some undeveloped land because the center needs to build a tube that's about 1 kilometer long, 0.6 miles long, a little over half a mile long. Norco College has about 70 undeveloped acres, so I'm thinking there's the third thing that's attractive. And then he said what he'd like to do is build this on a college or university campus that's near a military base. And yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Norco College. We share a fence line with the Navy base. So I said, after the meeting was over, I said, hey, why don't you come out to Norco College and I'll show you around. So we had a meeting a week later, And there are a number of sites where we can build a photonics center like this. There are a number of places where we can build a tube, a photonics tube, at even up to 1.2 kilometers long. And this conversation started happening. So we are really now a year into this idea of developing a photonics center for the region. It'll be much bigger than Norco College. It's not something that would just be a Norco College facility. This is truly something that would be a regional facility. Now, as this year's gone by, we've started centering around 4 basic ideas that we think this center should focus on. The first thing is research. There's a lot of research that still needs to take place in the field of photonics. There's I mentioned we're in the age of the electron right now. Well, we know a lot about the electron and how it can be used and how it can be harnessed and what it's capable of. We know a lot about the photon, but there's also a lot we don't know. We don't know how to harness it in certain capacities. So there's a lot of research that needs to take place. We need to do research on this thing called propagation. So if you shoot, when you go watch a science fiction movie, they'll show a laser beam just go for miles and miles, and it's a nice little tight beam, and it just keeps going and going, and it's perfectly tight. It has all of the integrity all the way through. Well, that doesn't happen in reality right now. If you shoot a beam right now through atmosphere, it'll be nice and tight, and then it fragments, and then pretty soon it just dissipates. You know those little pointers, those little red pointers? If I shoot the beam from here to that screen, it's nice and tight. But if I try to shoot the beam from here to Eastvale, you can't see it on the end at Eastvale. It's just dissipated by then. So we need to figure out propagation. We need to figure out how to use laser beams to push things. It's called propulsion. How can you use a laser beam to push something? How can you use light to apply force? There's been some examples of that, but not really in an industrial capacity. We need to figure out how to use photons for what's called actuation. So if you put a laser optic fiber and you connect it to a motor and you have a switch here, you want to turn the switch on and have it control the motor on that. And we do that all the time with electricity and electrons. We need to be able to do that more efficiently with photons. There's a whole series of research questions that need to be explored. So that's one area we need to really focus on is research. The second area that we need to focus on is metrology. So metrology is the science of measurement. And maybe the world's best metrology lab, I'm not kidding on this, maybe the best metrology lab in the world is right there in Norco at the Navy base. Yeah, that place is unbelievable. I wish everyone could go take a tour, but they got this thing called classification that holds everything back. What that Navy base does is they measure all of the systems in the Navy. So if Big Navy purchases a weapon from one company, and they purchase the ordnances that go in that weapon from another company, so you got you have a submarine, and you got to put torpedoes inside of this weapon. You need to make sure that they fit precisely. You don't want to find out that they don't fit when war starts, right? That's the wrong time to find out the systems aren't working. You need to find out ahead of time that these things fit. If you purchase a communication system that's supposed to have a certain level of security and it's supposed to communicate over a certain distance, you need to know that that actually happens for sure, and you need to measure those types. So all those systems are measured precisely by our Navy base. Well, today's Navy is increasingly purchasing systems that are based on photonics. They're purchasing communication systems on photonics. They're purchasing weapons systems. They're purchasing all kinds of systems on photonics, but they currently don't have the level of sophistication to measure all of those at this moment. So there's great need for metrology expertise to be expanded in the area of photonics. The third thing we need to focus on is education. We need to prepare people to work in this growing field. So we've got a whole generation here coming up that needs to help us understand photonics. We need technicians, people that can work on equipment with a high degree of technical expertise. We need engineers that can help us design and build systems, and we need scientists that can help us continue with the research in this field. So we need a whole continuum of education to be housed at this center, from certificates and AA degrees and bachelor's degrees and PhDs. And the fourth area where we need to focus on is we need to focus deeply on smooth and elegant technology transfer. As technology is developed in the center, we must figure out a way to smoothly and quickly transition that technology into the private sector. That is key to this success. There are a lot of university tech transfer centers that don't do this effectively. They create so much red tape, so much bureaucracy, that it takes 10 years to move a technology over into the private sector. We need to be able to figure out a way to move this technology into the private sector so they can start innovating on it, building solutions, and creating private sector success in this region around photonics. So those four areas, right? There's research, there's metrology, there's education, and there's technology transfer that we need to put inside of that center. Now, those four areas completely outstrip any one organization's mission. Those four things, way bigger than Norco College. Those four things, bigger than the Navy base. Those four things, bigger than any business in the area. And those four things, bigger than any government in our area. Those four things can only be done if we bring a consortium together. So we've got to think in a regional model on this, and we've been working on the consortium. Right now, Norco College is in, obviously. The Navy base is in, the Navy base in Norco. Also, the Naval Surface Weapons Center from Port Hueneme, they're interested in joining the consortium. UCR, the physics department and the engineering department are both interested in joining the consortium. All four chambers of commerce on the 15 corridor, Eastvale, Harupa Valley, Norco, and Corona, are interested in joining in the consortium. Congressman Calvert's office has been super supportive in helping with the consortium. Caltech, you guys are familiar with Caltech? It's the Caltech Physics Department is interested in joining the consortium. Caltech Physics Department might be the best physics department in the whole world. If they're not, they're top 5. Albert Einstein was on the staff with Caltech Physics in his latter years. It's a very impressive place. So there's a lot of interest in creating this center that can generate this kind of activity in this area. What I'd like you to think about as business leaders in the area, I'd like you to think about your interest in joining this consortium, or think about people you know in your circle of influence that might be interested in joining this consortium. I really believe this is something that's critical to the development of this region. Look, there's some region in the United States that's going to get this focus. Somebody will have it. 10 years from now, you and I are going to get together and we're going to talk about the region that got it. It will happen. I want it to be our region. Now, I agree. We have some competitive advantages, I listed some of them, that give us a leg up. But there are definitely other groups that are going to try to get to, and they should. They're going to try just as hard as we will. And they may have some competitive advantages to them also. And there's going to be a struggle for who gets this. And the people that are going to win the struggle, they have to have some of those competitive advantages I was talking about. And they have to be able to stay together as a region and collectively go after this as a region. So at a minimum, what I'm asking you to do, and then I'll open it up to some questions here. At a minimum, what I'm asking you to do is keep your eye on this. Keep your eye on this development. Help build this development. Figure out ways where you can engage it might just, maybe someday I say, hey, would you mind calling the Office of Naval Research for me? Would you mind calling this congressman or this congresswoman for me? Because we're trying to move this thing forward. The community that's able to stay together and hold an idea like this together and move it forward in a bold, collaborative, and urgent way is the community that's going to be able to stand on top of this industry and develop all around it. So I hope you guys are all in on this. I know we are. We're very excited about it. And at this point, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you might have. Yes. Right. So there are some people in the region that don't want development. Is what you're talking about here. That's correct. But my general sense is this is a smaller group, a minority group in the region. If you ask people up and down the region, do we want good jobs? Do we want to generate wealth? And do we want all the things that come from the wealth, like cultural opportunities, social opportunities, educational opportunities, all those things that follow in an environment like that? I think everybody wants that. What they want is some kind of development that doesn't interfere with their lives too much. And so we're just have to move through that together. Again, that's about talking and being together and being responsive to what people's interests are. But the outcomes that come with something like this, I think almost everybody wants. Other questions? Yes, sir. So the question is, what types of businesses do we recommend becoming involved with this coalition? I would say two types. One is if you are involved in any kind of economic development enterprise. So just anything that's trying to stimulate economic development in the Inland Empire or especially in Western Riverside County, that group needs to be involved. So there are a number of service organizations, there are a number of nonprofit organizations, there are economic development departments in all the cities, things like that. And then if you're involved in any area that crosses over with engineering, physics, in any of the STEM areas, any of the science areas, these are the areas that are really going to have a tremendous amount of opportunity here. Communications will have a big opportunity with regard to photonics. So then there's a whole area that we don't even know exists, right? When you give technology to an entrepreneur like this, and you say, use your imagination and develop something, they develop things that we can't even think of now. What we need to do is just get this motor turning, and then it'll start generating those types of things. I think that's kind of a vague answer, but at least it's an attempt. I saw another hand somewhere. All right, well, thank you very much.
The preceding presentation was made possible by William Scott Global, a communications firm that creates ongoing corporate video news content for U.S. companies while developing national media distribution strategies that reach targeted niche markets. WilliamScottGlobal.com, news and media distribution experts. And by America's Legacy, helping executives and community leaders share their life stories so future generations can intimately experience their contributions, the moments in their life that defined them, from their greatest achievements to their worst mistakes. AmericasLegacy.us